Hello and welcome to season 4 on Chatbox with Sam. Today we have the lovely Patricia Rae, the actress, producer, and healer. Welcome.
Oh my goodness, thank you for having me. And such a gift too, because tomorrow is Mother's Day. So it's, focusing on the feminine divine and all of the maternal and compassion that women, you know, offer in the world. So to have a nice little spotlight to kind of embrace all of the gifts that I share with all of my females in my life, including my daughter. So this is a really lovely opportunity to have some light shed on me because that doesn't always happen. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome and happy Mother's Day to you too. We are both mothers and I'm a grandmother as also. Patricia, you're a Colombian and then you grew up in Queens and Manhattan. You learned English watching shows like Sesame Street.
Well, I'm first generation American. So my parents were Colombian and I was raised, in an extended family with my grandmother and my uncles and my aunts. So nobody spoke English in the house. So I didn't learn really to have like a English conversation with anyone until I was in kindergarten. But I watched a lot of television, so that really helped stimulate my vocabulary and help me assimilate because I would come home and I would speak, I would say all the words that I learned in English from school, and my grandmother would she'd be like, ¿Qué? Háblame en español.
She wanted you to keep speaking Espanol. You
Yeah.
understand, keeping the heritage going, yeah.
Yep, absolutely. They were all about keeping the Latino tradition and, eating Colombian food and the spirit alive. They were not worried about me becoming American. They knew that I could do that all on my own, because a lot of Latino parents are like, don't speak Spanish at home, just stick to the English, assimilate yourself. They were the opposite. They were like, she's going to be too American. Make sure she speaks Spanish. She made sure I wrote in Spanish and spoke in Spanish, which actually became a blessing because I became bilingual and I've done my first really big film role, I only spoke Spanish. It was the first time I'd
Yes,
ever acted in Spanish. And Maria Full of Grace, the Oscar nominated film,
yes.
and had I not had that background, I wouldn't have been able to been in that movie
Movie.
because literally I didn't speak one word of English in the movie.
You've got a film that's being released in 2024 called Broom Street.
Yes, Broom Street is a film that my producing partner, also my life partner, and I have been working on for the last 8 years. He directed it, we produced it. It's a period piece set in the 80s and takes place during the whole say no to drugs and the Reagan era where Nancy Reagan was trying to get drugs off the street.
Right.
But all about all of these French Connection heroin that was being stored in the Broom Street precinct in the Lower East Side, and the cops kept pilfering it and replacing it with flour. And so the flour ended up developing these red bugs, and that's how the higher ups realized that all the cocaine was being missing, that they were
Missing.
stealing it. So it kind of starts there with these cops that were stealing the cocaine for some French drug dealers, and they get caught, and one of the brothers does time,
Mm-hmm.
and then the other brother, who was the cop who helped him, he gets kicked off the force. And when his brother gets back out of jail, the one that's been incarcerated wants to pick up where they left off because he knows where the drugs are. And he starts again trying to run the streets. But now the new king of the streets is crack. So
Oh,
I yeah, so I play the first internal affairs female officer in the New York City department, and I co-star with John Hurd,
Yes.
the beautiful late John Hurt from Home Alone fame, and he was in so many other wonderful movies. But
Yes.
it was such a gift to work with him. So this is his last performance on film, and so just
Oh.
really important for us to try and get this movie out there to the market. And we're finally going to be able to do that. But it's been a really long journey. So, for all you independent filmmakers out there, don't judge the process. Sometimes you can have a movie in the can and still it will take you another 3 or 4 years to actually put the product out onto the market. And a lot of people get discouraged. But, that's
It just
when
takes
you're not
time.
yeah, when you're not backed by a studio, that's just the reality.
Well, the funding takes such a long time, and then you can't do the production. I mean, you could be in pre-production for a while, but people don't realize how much studios actually cost. Studios, and then you need the film crew and the cast, and everyone needs paying, and it's
Yeah.
many hours. And I don't people in the that are not in the film industry don't realize how much work and how much money it costs just to do a short film these days, you know?
Yeah. And even the logistics of post-production, because a lot of filmmakers don't budget for post-production, and that can include E&O insurance, which is admissions and errors. That insurance costs like $5,000, and that's to make sure that anything you put in the movie, nobody can come and then and sue you for, right? So then you have to create an LLC for the film separate from yourself. Again, so that if anybody sues the film, that they can only sue the LLC, they can't sue
Right.
the filmmaker. So you have to pay for that, and you have to get lawyers involved, and then you have to pay. Then when you finally get it on a platform like a video on demand, you have to pay, to get it hosted on there and to have their people do like go through the film and see if there are any mistakes in it, and if there are, you have to pay to have them corrected. So it's a lot of work. Like even if like 2 seconds of a frame is missing, they won't approve the copy of the film that they're going to upload. So you have to fix that. So it's all of those things, that filmmakers, they don't teach you that in filmmaking
No.
school. Yeah, those are the hard knock lessons.
Patricia also has a podcast, and it's on YouTube, and it's a cooking channel.
Oh, absolutely. The cooking channel is actually called Cooking with Patty.
Okay.
That's up on YouTube, and I put little clips of it on Instagram. So I was married to a restaurateur for 10 years, and while we were together, he opened up 3 restaurants: a Greek restaurant in Little Neck, New York, a um a new American cuisine on 46th Street on Restaurant Row, and then an
Right.
Asian fusion. And so I spent a lot of time in the kitchens, just learning how to cook. My mother didn't teach me how to cook.
Oh no.
So I grew up in an era where when I had my daughter, that we didn't have the internet. So you actually had to open up a cookbook. You had to read the
Yes.
recipe, you had to write it down, you had to open the book, you had to,
Yeah.
put a little piece of tape on it to make sure that you knew where the recipe was. So I taught myself how to cook. And
Right.
in the restaurant, I perfected things like I have a lot of food hacks from working in the restaurants. I know
Yeah.
how to make sauces, I know how to make dressings, I know how to
Me
prepare.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, so I know how to prepare things that most people wouldn't try to make, like roast a leg of lamb or make lamb chops or,
Right.
debone a chicken or things like that. So I think that food is love. And I think that when you put your heart into cooking a meal for someone, your family, it can be a community event. And
Yes, it is.
I love to share those kind of things
Well,
with the audience.
all the holidays are based on food, and if you're a good cook, they say that's the way to a man's heart is through his stomach. Maybe some,
Absolutely.
you know.
And you don't even have to, you don't have to be a great cook, because cooking is a skill that you can improve. So
Yes.
I know that I've made like my last recipe that was on that I put up is the my roasted herb chicken, and it's taken me like 10 years to perfect this recipe, you know. And sometimes it comes out dry, and
Right.
sometimes it doesn't because you don't know. Sometimes you're rushing and you put the oven up too high, and then you know it just dries out. You didn't baste it enough. So
Right.
anybody can cook, is my point. Don't think just because you don't cook and you've never cooked that you can't cook and you will always get better.
See, my mum always told me to add some water or liquid, you know. You know, sometimes you do wine, but white or red. But I always cook slowly for a
Mm-hmm.
longer time.
Exactly.
And then I keep it covered until the last 5 minutes because then the moisture because meat is very easy to dry, you know. So
Absolutely.
add moisture, cover it up, cook slowly. I think that's the key there.
But the key to every recipe is butter.
Oh my gosh. I've just bought
And
this
it can be
Hamish.
a butter substitute, doesn't have to be real butter.
I
But
stuff all the meat with butter as well. Butter and herbs. I love butter. Being the Irish, my mum's Irish, when we did a wedding, if they were all helping, like doing the pre-wedding things, the sandwiches, you had to butter every single corner of that piece of bread. You couldn't leave a bit.
it's like
The
I can
Irish.
spread. So I started to put these little videos up online and Instagram. And then people, every time I was at a party, no one ever asks me about my acting. They're always like, I saw that last episode that you did with the Brussels sprouts. I really liked that episode. And I was like, really? And every time I'd be like, really? You watched that? And they were like, yeah, they're so funny. They're so cute. So I just kept doing them. So there.
Awesome.
Yeah, I just went yesterday I took my sister who came down from San Francisco to go to
Right.
my favorite crystal store. I'll give a shout out to Spellbound Sky in Silver Lake. They have beautiful crystals, really, good price, and the people in there are very spiritual. And when I went in, to the register to bring all my candles, he said, "Oh, I just watched the episode with the roasted chicken. It looked really good." I said, "Oh, did you make it?" He goes, "No, I don't cook. I just like to watch them."
We do need to talk a little bit about your career because you have an amazing career. You've played in films. I mean, the series you've been in: Law and Order, Chicago Code, New York News, The Closer, and so that's great in the TV series and been in film. Do you prefer film or the TV series episodes?
Um, I I enjoy the film process a little bit more than television just because in film it's almost like theater. You sometimes you have a chance to rehearse with the cast. You get, if you're lucky, you'll have a character that has like a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Right,
And it's more like an organic experience, right? Film is all about the experience. Television is all about the information, right? If you're on a Law and Order, or if you're on The Closer, or if you're on All Rise, what's going on? What's the case? Who's the criminal? And so you have to be super focused on making sure that you deliver the information that the audience needs is especially when you're like a recurring or a series regular, the show isn't really too much about your character arc. It's really about the case that's going on because it's a
right.
series. You're following a story, maybe for a few episodes or maybe for a whole season. So, in that regard, that's why I like film because it's more about the character. It's character driven.
And you've played in films like Cut Off and Closing the Green in 2008.
Green. I got nominated for The Big Wedding. I got nominated for an Amahan Award. And for Maria Full of Grace, I got nominated for an Amahan Award. And The Big Wedding is the film that I was so fortunate enough to do with a huge, like, star-studded cast. Robert De Niro, Diane Keaton, Susan Sarandon, Robin Williams, Katherine Heigl. Um, who else was in that? Amanda Seyfried. I played Ben Barnes' mom.
Yeah.
Um, it was just a really, really lovely experience to work with Robert De Niro. I had a lot of scenes with him, and I had scenes with Diane Keaton because they play the parents of my son Ben Barnes because they adopt him. I play a Colombian woman who gives my child up for adoption because I'm very Catholic and I work for the church. So
Right.
he raised by these rich white people in America, and they're throwing him this big, huge, like Connecticut style wedding with, everything. And they fly me in from Colombia to attend the wedding. And I don't speak a lick of English. And it's very, very funny because Robin Williams plays the priest. And he
He
was
was
really,
lovely.
oh, he was so funny.
And you played
He,
Madonna Soto, right?
yes, I played
In the
Madonna.
cast, yes.
So
Okay.
that was the one that I got nominated for an Amahan Award. And I think every time I've ever been up for an award, I always lose to a child actor.
Oh,
So
really?
yes, I'm like, I don't know about this. I've been in this industry for 35 years. How old are you? 12? Congratulations, honey.
They're giving them confidence.
Exactly.
And then you were in a film called Night Stalker.
Oh, that was the Night Stalker was the Richard Ramirez. He was the a serial killer
Killer.
that lived in California, and he went all the way from like San Francisco and came down, and each like city he targeted couples for some reason.
Mm.
And so I play the wife of one of his victims, one of his last victims. This is based on a true story.
Right.
Chris Fish directed it. And starring Rosalind Sanchez. She plays the cop, and Danny Trejo is in it.
Mm-hmm.
And my friend Douglas Spain is in it too. And he didn't kill me. I survived, and I was my character was able to identify him, and that's actually how he got caught.
Caught. Was that was the film where he tied the man up and then raped the woman in front of the.
Yes,
I've
that was
watched
that.
that film. Yeah.
And I'm so excited to be working with Yeniffer Behrens and Mauricio Mendoza on
Her
their movie.
her choices is coming out.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, she we were at a event, the Winter Ball for Latinas Acting Up, which is an
Mm-hmm.
organization that we belong to that kind of came together during the actors strike. And she said, I would love for you to play the part of, I don't know, wait, I'm not going to say who playing because I don't know if that's out there yet. But she asked me if I would play this character
Right.
because this woman is very, very a notorious stereotype
Right.
villain. And I said, I'd love to.
Play the villain. That's awesome. And then you,
Yeah.
yes, because if you remember, audience, the people that repeat, come back, and are my greatest supporters. You were on the live stream when we were doing the
Oh,
crowdfunding
yeah.
for her choices, so I really appreciate it. And you were on with Oscar Torre, Chuti Tui, Roberto
Hmm.
Sanchez popped on, and Ariel, which I've just interviewed last night. Ariel,
Oh,
Yunus.
very talented people. So
Yes,
I was in good company.
yes,
So yeah, yeah, that's been quite a journey, my film career. And then the last thing that I was just on was All Rise, where I played Judge Delgado, that was such a gift to be able to be a woman of color,
yeah,
to be a role model for young women, to see themselves on television, and to dream that they could become lawyers, that they can become judges, that they can change
mm-hmm.
the landscape of their lives, they can be a part of the law, So I really, really that was one of my favorite jobs that I think I've ever had, just because even I feel like my nieces are so proud that I've been able
Yeah,
to bring that to, just to young audiences and young Latinas out there looking for career choices and for inspiration.
That's awesome. If you were going to inspire the younger generation, what would be your main focus and why?
I think that one of the ways that I find very instrumental for myself to inspire other women is to share my story, share my struggles, and share my triumphs with them. So whether I volunteered to go and speak at like a high school, my niece is very prolific in being on like boards of EEOC boards and minorities and women of color, and she'll always say, Auntie Patty, will you come and speak to the girls? I want you to show them, that what you've done and how you've accomplished it. So
Mm-hmm.
that's one of my favorite ways of like bridging the gap between helping women to realize their potential and their dreams is to inspire them with my story, because I've had to struggle. I didn't really have a role model. I didn't really
Right.
have a lot of the help that the some actors have now, or the community, or the kind of groups that are being formed in terms of like uplifting and being part of like a national Hispanic media coalition, or just Latino organizations that are now forming to help women who want to be in the industry, whether they want to be cameramen or, work sound or be directors or be DPs. I
Editors, like your
editor.
daughter Sage.
Yes, my daughter Sage is an editor. She went to NYIT, New York Institute of Technology, and she learned how to edit. And so she's worked on big projects like Apple and IBM, and she helps them do in-house films. She's helped us edit films as well. She's a fine artist as well.
Oh, that's awesome.
All of that because she definitely didn't want to be an actress. Because like I do
It's not
not.
for everyone.
Yeah, she's seen my journey and she know it's been really hard. I've had years where I didn't have, enough to like help ourselves get further along, or
Right.
to I was always like struggling financially,
Yeah.
having to go back to a day job and, hostessing, waitressing, bartending until 4 o'clock in the morning. I did what I had to do, because I didn't want to give up on my dream, and not everyone has that kind
Well,
of
I have a full time
faith.
job. Yeah, I still
Yeah,
work full time. I couldn't, so because I don't get paid for the podcast anyway, but I enjoy it. I want to show humanity how we're familiar yet uniquely different, and promote kindness and show that people in the industry are just human beings, just like everyone else. I don't censor any of my guests, and it's your interview, and you telling your story, and everyone's got a story. And
exactly.
within someone's story, it also can help inspire other people. It can help them through a difficult situation. And you can see the other side of your life where you're sharing, where it wasn't just easy and limelight and Hollywood, and it was a struggle. And you had to work till like 4 in the morning and pay the bills and rob Peter to pay Paul before before you got your acting down, or it's
Yeah,
not
and
a
it
lot of
and
people. A lot of
it's
people have second
difficult.
jobs, huh?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And there's no shame in it. I have
No,
a who's very, very talented actress, and she books gigs here and there, but she has a daughter, and her daughter's going to be going to, grade school, high school. She's going to have to start putting money away for college for
right.
her. And so she went back and she learned, she became what's a lawyer's assistant? What are they called? Paralegal.
Paralegal, yeah,
Yes, she went back to school to become a paralegal, and sometimes she gets a little down on herself. And I'm like, no, no, there's no shame,
right.
because you're doing this for your daughter. So now you're going to sacrifice to make sure that she gets the best and that she has access to the education that she's going to need. And she's going to see you forging the way forward. So she's never afraid to go out there and take care of herself and never ashamed that you have honest work. There's nothing to be ashamed of. And we can be artists and we can be so many things. We can have a podcast. We can
Absolutely.
be
Amen to that. Power
we
to the
can
women.
be cooks. We can ride horses. We can be trainers. You know, I'm a healer.
I was
I'm
just
a
about to ask you that question. Could you
yeah.
share a little bit? Because I love crystals. I get out the sage and the wheatgrass, and I'm very spiritual myself. Grew up with a load of my I grew up with my Irish aunties. Let me look at your hand.
Well,
Let's
yeah.
see.
I can see your aura right now. Once you started talking about it, your aura like expanded.
Changed, yeah.
Um, I've because of
You're an
my
empath then. Are you an
yeah
empath? I'm an
yeah. So
empath as well. Yeah.
yeah. And as an actress, you tap into that empathy because you're always looking for the connection to the character, right? That you can play. And so I was very aware that I had very compassionate feelings when I would meet people who were struggling.
Right.
And I didn't have a word for that. Later on, once I started to study yoga.
Oh yes, so
And
you do yoga as well. I saw that.
you see, you can be so many things. That was another one of my day jobs.
How awesome though. But I don't think I could. I used to be flexible when I was young. I could bend backwards, but I don't
Oh
think I
no.
could do that now. It'd be a bit
Well,
squeaky.
I always tell my clients, if you can breathe, you can do yoga because yoga isn't just about the asanas. It's about the spiritual journey. It's about the mind body spirit connection, right? And what you do to facilitate that. What you do to keep yourself in your highest power, in your highest light. So I'm always trying to add something to my Reiki practice. So then I realized during my sessions when I would adjust people when I used to still teach in classrooms because I opened up a private practice, so I
That's
don't.
awesome.
I would adjust someone and they would say, "Wow, when you lay your hands on me, it feels very comforting. It feels like all my anxiety is
We
disappearing."
draw the negative. I had Reiki once. I bawled for an hour crying. She must have took. I was grieving though, but she must have pulled it all out of me, and I thought it was amazing. And I didn't go back, but I would. But I think it's because so emotional for me. But it was a big release as well.
Yes, yeah. So people didn't understand, and I was like, well, I must be doing more than just touching. I'm obviously transferring energy,
That's
right?
what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, so I started to research it, and then I found Reiki, and so then this woman that this beautiful incredible healer, Reiki healer, Jacqueline Cockhurst. She was my teacher. She's my Reiki guru, and she made me a master. And so I added Reiki to my yoga uh, practice, and so I heal people, and I heal people because it's part of my journey. I
It's
feel
in the
like
hands. Yeah.
yeah, it's like sharing that I can connect to source light because I practice, and I think everybody can connect to source light, but some people are just more intuitive, and because I'm a super intuitive person because I'm an empath, I
Yeah.
just it just came to me easier and it interested me more than maybe some other people.
Right.
And so I added it as one of my gifts that, the universe gave me. And so I share it.
I'm really pleased to meet you because
Oh,
we're so similar. I don't do
I
Reiki. I don't
know.
do
And
Reiki,
we
but we're
have the
we're
same
so.
taste in clothing.
I know. Before I hit the record button, because I saw Patricia's dress, I pulled mine out the closet, and it's very similar.
Very similar. I'm sure it looks gorgeous on you with your beautiful hair and your beautiful eyes.
Oh, thank you. You have beautiful hair and beautiful eyes too. You're a very lovely soul, and I can see the aura coming from you. You're just so amazing. It's really
Oh.
lovely to interview you.
Either music can inspire you or art, the feeling that it creates, you take those things with you. You
Absolutely.
know, you so material things can be gone. I mean, look at all the
They are.
horrific fires last couple seasons, and now the mudslides. People are losing their homes or
Yeah.
losing material possessions. But if you have your knowledge and your creativity and your art and your family and your community, you're always going to be rich.
Exactly. And it's on a spiritual level as well. And
Exactly.
people can find you on YouTube, and they can
Yeah.
find you on Instagram and
Yes.
Facebook.
Yes. And my podcast, Believe This, which is on Apple. It's on Spotify, it's on Google Play, or wherever you get your podcasts and listen to your podcast. It's a podcast I do with my co-host Chris Krim, and we tackle things that are hot topics, current events, things that are affecting our lives, things that hot button issues that make you hot under the collar, that make you mad, that make you want to scream at the television, and we debate them. You know, we have good faith debates. We don't always see eye to eye, but we always allow each other the room to either try and understand the other person's point of view or say, you know what, let's agree to disagree, but hear each other out. And we've talked about a lot of really interesting things like 15-minute cities, how they're going to outlaw gas burners in California, you know, the border, a haunted house that went extreme and is like hurting people, psychics.
Oh gosh, awesome.
So we've tackled a lot of topics and we really have a good time. So give us
That's
a
awesome.
listen. It's Believe This. You can get it on Spotify and wherever, iTunes, wherever you get your podcasts.
And then on Instagram, what's your handle on Instagram and
I'm
Facebook?
at the THE Patricia Rae on Instagram and Twitter, and then just Patricia Rae on Facebook. And on YouTube, my channel is called Cooking with Patty. You can find me because I'm everywhere.
She's everywhere and nowhere, baby. That's where
That's
she's
right,
at.
everywhere and nowhere at the same time.
I was just thinking of the song. I don't know why that popped in my head, but it suddenly did.
But it's so true.
I know. If this was the last time you could ever speak, the last time you had anything to say, what would you say?
Don't live in fear. Just live in the moment. Live your life. Remember to love.
Have you got anything you'd like to say to the audience before we
Uh,
finish up?
Thank you for, watching this episode. Please keep up with Chatbox with Sam. She's a lovely woman. She does this out of the goodness of her heart to connect with people, and we need more of that in this world.
And I'd like people to watch Patricia's films, TV series, and her podcast. And check her out for Reiki if you're in Los Angeles and you want healing. Contact Patricia. She's on IMDb. I'm sure you could message her on Twitter and Facebook. I wanted to say thank you very much, Patricia Rae, the Aries and healer, actress, producer, mother, and a wonderful soul. Thank you so much for being on season 4 on Chatbox with Sam.
Thank you, everyone. I appreciate it.
Stay tuned for the sneak peek from next week's episode of Actress Christian Urias. We have mutual friends of Yeniffer Behrens and Mauricio Mendoza. Christina was in The Final Vow.
Absolutely. So yeah, Final Vow. I started that with Yeniffer and Mauricio, and he's like, I'm gonna start this company. I want you to come work with me. And so he hired Candace, still Judas, and she does more of the corporate side of the company, but she's amazing. And so he's like, but you have to move to San Diego. And I was like, oh, I found it kind of odd because, usually the jobs are in LA, but probably just look out for Final Vow, which should be coming out soon. And our other movie should be coming out following after that. It's funny. I mean, obviously comedy has to be relatable or else it's not funny. I'm a bright star in the nighttime. I'm a